Welcome back, McElroy Cubelic in the morning on Jocks 94.5. Appreciate all of you being with us. It's been a really fun show so far today. Had a great first hour talking draft. So if you missed any of the show, you can always download the podcast. We did a second hour that was kind of all over the place. Started off with a good conversation with Pat Forty about the future of the college football playoff. And then Cole was able to call in, so we talked a little NFL draft with him before finishing the hour talking a little college football playoff. Now we start the 9 o'clock hour fresh, and I need some advice from our listeners because we have a really fun and exciting, I guess you'd say fun and exciting week end coming up for my son and me. Like, I'm so excited about this. We've had it kind of planned for a bit. And we had to see what baseball, like, could we do it? Was it going to be challenging? Tried to work around baseball. Baseball ended earlier this week. Like, it was just, like, tried to work around it. And eventually was like, this is in. Like, let's do this, right? Let's do this. It's going to be a great experience. Really, really looking forward to it. I am taking my son, and we're going to start doing this every spring. And we get to go all the time to Alabama and get to go and go to practice and go to scrimmages and go to games like that. Like, my son is a Bama fan. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, that's been easy. It's like, I mean, that's easy. Like, I can get him on board with the Tide. That's not a hard press. But this has been a weird one for me the last couple of years. My son, because we did, however many Notre Dame games in a row, when they made that run to the national championship, he has kind of adopted Notre Dame as his second team. And a lot of people are like, well, hang on a second. Hang on. You can't be Bama / Notre Dame, right? Like, that's a hard thing to do. And I get it, believe me, especially for the older generation. The older generation looks at the Notre Dame Alabama as like this massive rivalry. I totally get it. But I, for one, as someone that is like, I'm all about tradition. I'm all about historical excellence. I'm all about, I'm a football junkie. Like, I'm a tradition junkie. Like, I'm all about it. And my dad and me, I remember vividly, we started going on trips when I was about 8 years old. We went one time to San Francisco against Green Bay. We were living in Los Angeles at the time. Flew up to San Francisco. My dad, we drove down, we rented a convertible. We drove down the super windy road. Like, we went and did all this cool touristy stuff in San Francisco. And we got to watch Brett Favre play against Steve Young. It was like a great experience for me. Probably one of my earliest memories as a sports fan. The following year, we went to Denver, and I got to see John Elway play in Denver for the first time. This was in 97. So it was right on the cusp of when, they won the Super Bowl that year, but it was right on the cusp of like him shutting it down. This might be our last chance to see him. We got to go see him, all this other stuff. And then the following year, we went to Jacksonville. You're going to like, wait, hang on a second. Jacksonville, you went to go see Mark Brunell? Yes, did go see Mark Brunell, but Mark Brunell was actually playing against Dan Marino. So I got to go and have these great experiences with my dad, and I remember him vividly. I don't have that luxury, unfortunately, in the fall. Like, in the fall, it's all about ball, right? Like, I'm working. It's around the clock. It's 7 days a week. It's nonstop. So it's hard, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to take my kids to Bama games, and they go on the field, and we go see some of the players, see the coaches, all that stuff. It's great, but we've never really had a chance to go anywhere else together. So what we're going to start doing is in the spring, we're going to go to some campuses, and we're going to go see a spring game, and we're going to go watch a baseball game, and ironically, we're going to go to a lacrosse game tomorrow. So here's the itinerary. All right, we land in South Bend today at about 4 o'clock. All right, then we're going to kind of be in the area. We're going to go and have pizza at a famous place called Rocco's. We're staying on campus. We're going to kind of walk around campus, check all that out. They're playing Boston College in baseball, so if we can make the baseball game tonight and the weather's good, we'll try that. Then tomorrow at noon, they play number 1 Notre Dame lacrosse team is playing against Syracuse, who's number 4. So I've never been to a lacrosse game. I'm excited. I'm probably as excited about as Vince is. I've never seen a college lacrosse game, and for your first experience to be like a rivalry, an ACC rivalry in lacrosse that I didn't know existed 3 days ago. We're going to go do that, and then we're going to go to the Notre Dame spring game and cap it off with a baseball game. So triple header tomorrow, full day of father-son activities. I'm going to make them watch Rudy on the way up. You're going to see the grotto. We're going to see the lake. We're going to see the Golden Dome. We're going to see Touchdown Jesus. We're going to see all this stuff. Like, I'm so excited about it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have not an ounce of me has ever been a Notre Dame fan, nor will it ever be. But it's going to be cool to be on campus with your son. Like, I'm so pumped to be able to do this father-son trip with him, and I'm really looking forward to it. But this is really our first one because we went to the Final Four a couple years ago. Was really, really a great experience. You know, might have been a once-in-a-lifetime experience. At least that's what we were approaching it like. It was gonna, hey, we never know if we'll be back, so we gotta go. We stayed right next to the stadium, and all we did was go to Pop Stroke, the putt-putt place, which is right next door. And we went to Dave & Buster's because it was too difficult to kind of get around. It was too far away. I think that he's going to have a great time doing all sorts of fun stuff. I mean, I think just being on campus, going to the bookstore, eating pizza, being with dad is going to be fun. I hope. I just wonder if I've bit off more than I can chew with 3 games in one day, Bear. How do you think we're going to handle it? You think we'll be okay?
That itinerary sounded absolutely amazing and fantastic, and I was getting tired thinking about all the stuff you would have to do in one day. And you were going to do this with just one son or both? Just one?
Just one.
Okay, one. All right. I feel like while that's more manageable, I felt like if you were taking both boys that you might have to work in some nap time or something. But that does feel like a dream scenario. That feels like a dream itinerary. I hope you were able to get all of it in because I feel like that would wear me out. So you and the little one, good. I can't wait when we get back Monday. Can't wait to hear about it because I hope you made everything because I do think, especially getting to go to that kind of lacrosse game, like your first one, and it be a top 5 matchup. Yeah, like that should be absolutely phenomenal. And then to go witness their spring game, which are they actually doing a spring game or are they doing like?
Yeah, no, it's like it's a real game as far as I know. I don't know for sure, but it's like we're gonna go to Georgia. We've been to Auburn. Like, we've been to a bunch of SEC places. Like I kind of want to see them. Me as like a college football fan, I kind of want to go to some different places too. So like I'm super fired up about it, and I'm like, this is just gonna be super fun. I mean, I've only been to South Bend once as a recruit, twice as a recruit. And once as a broadcaster a couple years ago leading up to the playoff game, but I never had a chance to go like explore. Like to me there's nothing better than just being on campus. Like I just love being on campus. I like the energy. I like just kind of walking around aimlessly with really no agenda and just kind of seeing the sights, you know, seeing the buildings, seeing the architecture, seeing the traditions, seeing what makes that place special. Like I think it's the coolest thing ever to go to all these campuses and to see games, and we can't do it in the fall.
No.
So we're going to do it in the spring. And I know spring games have kind of gone away. We need them to come back in a big way if this is going to be an annual trip.
Yeah, it would be very disheartening if you chose to do like Texas this year and they were just having like, passing drills or something. It's like, oh, okay, well that would be a little deflating. So I don't know how many coaches are listening right now, but please get back to having spring games because let's be honest, Greg needs this. It's very
there you go.
Greg definitely needs this. But that's the reason you're doing this is part of the reason why I several years ago I was able to go see Ohio State, Penn State, Saquon Barkley's senior year like that. I was able to do that like in season, and it was one of those like I haven't been able to like get to a game, and I wanted to do something, but I know I could get to an SEC game or see something like that. Like let me go out of the footprint and find something and do. And so I left after work Friday. I enjoyed the game Saturday and then spent Sunday like walking around campus and just enjoying the things that was around, and came back Monday before the show just because I didn't want to just go up there, get the game and come back. Like to be able to experience the city, the campus, all like that. Like that's something that absolutely intrigued me, and I'm so thankful that I did it, and I'm very, very excited for you that you get to experience that with your boy.
It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be good, and I know it's Notre Dame, and for many Alabama fans that feel sacrilegious, just bear with me. Like as a football history junkie, like you gotta appreciate them, whether you like them or not, root for them or not, whatever. Like it's gonna be awesome. So very much looking forward to that. So that's where we'll be this weekend. Can't say I've ever traveled anywhere or gotten on a plane to go to a spring game outside of one that I was working. But hey, you know what? There's a first time for everything. All right, when we come back, great conversation with the head coach of the Ole Miss Rebels, Pete Golding. Just really, really good, in-depth, insightful, kind of walks us how he got the job, what he was going through, what's now gone down. I mean, it's just a fascinating look behind the curtain with what went down for the last few months for Pete Golding in his first year, full year as the head coach after what was an outstanding playoff run where he won his first 2 games and then ultimately got there at the very end, but had a chance to go to the national championship game. So when we come back, it's Pete Golding next on Mac and Q.
Welcome back into McElroy and Cubelic in the morning here on Jocks 94.5. I'm John Saber here with you today. We're about to get to Greg's conversation with Pete Golding in just a moment. Don't forget that coming up in about 45 minutes, three-man front with Landrum, Pat, Conrad, Molly, and the crew. 10 to 2 right here on Jocks. Paul Feinbaum after that from 2 until 6. And then the Braves take over at 6 o'clock right here on Jocks. But Greg was able to sit down with the current Ole Miss head coach, Pete Golding, who had probably maybe the most successful, at least postseason successful coach at Ole Miss, because they hadn't really had a postseason win until he took the reins. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Pete Golding era, now that he's at the helm, to see what happens down in Oxford. And let's hear what Pete and Greg had to say when they were able to sit down. It's going to be a long conversation, so we're going to split it up. So here's the first half of Greg McElroy's conversation with Pete Golding.
Look, Pete, I've known you forever, man, and it's so awesome to see you as a head coach now, first and foremost. And I've told you that already privately, but saying it publicly, I want everyone to know just how excited I am about this opportunity that lies right in front of you. Look, you're from Hammond, Louisiana, right? You play at Delta State. You spend years at like lower level spots. You finally get a chance. And there you are. You're at UTSA, then at Alabama. And most guys with a resume like what you've had, maybe they don't get this opportunity. Well, when was it that you actually started to believe that, man, you know what? I might be a head coach at this level.
I mean, I really didn't ever think about it through the process. It was just like, to me, like, I've never sent, a letter to somebody, I want to work your camp, or like, hey, called anybody, like, hey, will you interview me or anything like that. It's just always been like, just so excited for the next step. They've always happened really fast. I've always been really fortunate to be around a lot of really good dudes, get really good players. And then you just look up and you're 22 as a DC, and then you go back to your alma mater, and then you're with Ron Roberts, who I think is one of the best I've ever been around. And then you get to see it done that way, and then get to go to your hometown. But to me, it was probably the break from like Southeastern 1AA to Southern Miss, being Division One, because I always kind of had it on this pedestal because I had no idea what to compare it to. And playing D2, like, you always had like Division One and SEC and all that type of stuff. And then I got there, I'm like, man, you know what? Like, it's the same, right? Like, I mean, like, it's not all that and all that. Like, just work really hard and be sound in what you do and recruit good players. So, and then when I went to UTSA, we had a lot of success that second season from a defensive standpoint. And then I started getting some calls then, and didn't have an agent. Bo Davis was my D-line coach, right? And he's like, hey, like, you need an agent. Like, this is how this business works. I'm like, bro, I'm good. I don't need one. And then, that's when Ed was at Bama, right? And so I got a phone call from Ed, and I was the whole like, hey, Jeremy's about to take Tennessee job. We don't have anybody in line. Would you be interested in an interview at Alabama? And I didn't know anybody there. I'm like, yeah. So that's how it happened. And when I got there, like, you know how Bama is. Obviously, you played there. When you walk in the building, it feels like everybody's there has been a head coach there, the NFL, and you start hanging around with him. You start drinking beer. I'm like, man, if this dude could be a head coach, I could be a head coach, right? I mean, some of those dudes. But it was probably really Bama as far as the head coach. Like, hey, if you want to go that direction, you could. You're around the best guy to ever do it. But to me, I just love coaching defense and love running the room and recruiting and all those that I wasn't looking for that, really didn't want that. This was a little different based on the move here for my family and everything else and the timing of everything. So, but just super fortunate to be around a lot of really good people. I think timing's everything, right? And obviously the good Lord had a lot to do with that, but awesome opportunity.
Yeah, well, it's funny to me though, because I've had the same conversation with Kalen DeBoer, had the same concept with similar pedigrees, that maybe started at either NAIA, D3, D2, what have you. And it's like, ball is ball. Like, to me, ball is ball. Like, whether you're at Delta State, at Ole Miss, at Washington, at Alabama, at Ohio State, like, ball is ball. And if you can coach it, you can do it at the D3 level. And frankly, it might be more impressive to do it at a lower level than it is to do it with all the bells and whistles that you have at the D1 program. So is that kind of your philosophy, the way you've approached it?
I think the biggest thing at that level, Greg, like, you don't have a guy with a skill set that can do everything. So
yeah.
you got to look at the player like, hey, what can he do, right, based on what he can't do. And as far as from an NFL standpoint, like, all right, here's the criteria for this position, and you've got to check every box or you're not going to play. So, it made me very young create a lot of different personnel packages based on what can do. we're not going to call this when little Johnny's in. So let's create a package based on what little Johnny can do. Right. And then, all right, the 5 technique can't rush. Well, if it's an obvious pass down, let's take him out and put Tim in. So, like, I think it, made you evaluate from a player, what can they do, not what they can't do, create packages, which allow you to be a little more multiple, throughout it. And then I felt like the best thing about those lower level D2s, like, man, like week 1, you're going against 5 wide. Week 2, you're going versus the triple, a split back veer, right? Like then week 3, it's 21 person. Like you saw it all. And then the best thing about D2, I mean, it's 36 equivalencies. You can break them up how you want, right? So, I mean, you're recruiting in-state Pell kids because it's 0.46. So, like, you're managing a roster. You can cut guys. You can bring them in. We lived in the transfer market back then because you could transfer down, right? Yeah. So, I mean, you're looking like, all right, who can we add to it? I mean, like in 2010 at Delta State, we go to the national championship. There's 62 new players on that team that weren't there in 2009. So, like, a lot of that had really helped me through the process, to be able to be ready for when it did transition and all that, and to be appreciative of where you're at, because every step we traveled a little better, we wore nicer stuff, right? You ate a little better, right? You made a little more money. So just climbing that ladder was pretty cool.
It's awesome. I do want to kind of go back just for a moment. And look, we want to focus on this year's team.
Yeah.
What you did last year, though, it's impossible to ignore with the success that you had. I mean, you're sitting there, it's November 30th or whatnot. And you had told me, told us, our crew behind the scenes, what kind of went down and how you really weren't interested in being the head coach. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we kind of like you. And just walk us through that night and being told, all right, hey, Pete, you're our guy.
Yeah, so it started, obviously the Egg Bowl was that Friday, right? So then I rode back with Kiff. Knox had a playoff game, so we took the van back instead of riding back with the team. And
I thought you said you travel better. What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, we played at Starkville, bro. You're not an hour and 20 minutes. Like, we stay at home. And so then, like, I still couldn't get a real feel because I was with him the whole time. It was like, hey, Tuesday I'm going to Florida. Hey, Wednesday I'm going to LSU. Like, hey, Thursday I'm staying. So I still couldn't have it like a real feel. And then it was Saturday night that I got the first call from Keith, right? Saturday night saying, hey, Kip's decided to go elsewhere. Like, hey, let's meet at 7:30. So we went in there, met with 7:30, started talking about some things. And then he met with the Players Council. And then it got real about 12:20 that day. They called me back over there, the chancellor and Keith, and was like, hey, man, like, we really want you to do this. We think it's the right time. We think you're the right guy. Because I kind of expressed throughout it, that, like, I love my role. Right. You ain't got to worry about me going anywhere. I came because of my family and all that. And then the situation of how it went down, what was going on, everything about it, it's just, the timing. It goes back to timing to me. It was just like, it just felt right. It wasn't anything that I wanted to ask for, any of those type of things. And it felt right. And, I never thought I would want to do it at this age. And then after 5 days being into it, man, I was like, man, I wish I would have done this a long time ago, to be honest with you, the ability, to be able to impact people around you and all those type of things. But it was super fast. That was like 12:22 on that Sunday, right? Because they mentioned a couple other names. And to be honest with them, I'm like, you know what? Like, I really don't want to work for somebody else at this point in my career, right? Like, let's just do this. I didn't ask how much, didn't ask how many years. I just went straight over to the building, started recruiting some offensive staff, right? Try to keep them off the plane by 2 o'clock. And we had a 1 o'clock team meeting, had no idea. I was meeting with an offensive coach and 12:58, like, hey, come in here. And then it was the announcement. So that was a little bit of a surprise. And then, this is the Sunday before a Wednesday signing day.
Yeah.
So obviously we weren't concerned from a defensive standpoint, but I hadn't had a relationship with the offensive guys that were outside of my area. So trying to do that, and then retention of staff and all that. So happened super fast, man. But I think it was a blessing, to be honest with you, that you had a game in 2 weeks. It was a blessing to me that signing day was Wednesday, man, because you just went straight to work and you had nothing to think about, and you were on with parents and you were on with kids, and then in the meantime, you're talking about coaches, like, who can we get to replace if they don't come back? And so there was never a dull moment, didn't have time to think about it, to be honest with you. And it's one of those things, man, shoot or shoot, man. So, like, you got your opportunity, you got to roll.
It was super cool, too. And I loved what you said to the team. I think it was something, and I might be paraphrasing here, so clean it up if I'm off base. You said something about, like, hey, I can tell you all the things that I'm going to do, but I'd kind of rather just show you. And that's really the only way I know how to do it. And so what exactly did you show them in the first few days to get the buy-in that you got throughout the playoff run?
Well, I think I had a benefit from the standpoint of, like, everybody in the building already knew why I was here. And so there was never a concern like, hey, are you going somewhere else or any of that based on the reason why I was here. So then from the defensive side, you like this have been 3 years at this point where they see the work that you put in and the love that you have for them and the ability to hold them accountable and all those type of things because they see it firsthand. So, to me, it was the other side of the ball. Obviously, you didn't have those interactions as far as in that detail. To just let them know, look, man, I'm going to be hard on you, right? Like, there's an expectation. Like, you've earned the right to go play in the playoff. Let's make sure we're doing everything that we can in our power to play our best ball. There's some things that we need to add to do that. There's some things I feel like we could take away, that are a little, bit of distractions. But more importantly, just knowing that you care. I mean, you heard that cliche like your whole life, but just by your actions of being there and being hard on them, but having an open door. I think really involving the players committee, right, and the players council, leadership, whatever you want to call them, on if there was going to be a decision that they were affected by, not scheme wise, not how we practice or anything like that, but some of those things that I thought about adding or taking away, I made sure they had an input because it's their team. And so I was like, look, man, if y'all want to keep it, I'm good. Don't bother me at all. But, I do feel like it's 10 more minutes in a meeting that we could shave off and we could add 10 minutes to a walkthrough that's really going to matter. Just little things like that. And I feel like the ownership of it that they felt, right, by being able to be a part of some decisions and all those type of things helped. But at the end of it, Greg, man, it's a great group of dudes and they were tough, competitive. They love football. They just wanted you to coach them hard, develop good plans for them, and just go spot the ball. So it was a fun group.
Well, you certainly did. And one of the reasons why you made the run that you did was to play your quarterback. And what he had to go through and what y'all had to go through as a program this year is wild. I mean, I didn't know how it was going to end up, whether he would get the additional year of eligibility, whether he wouldn't. It was back and forth. It was very public. I felt like in my heart of hearts, like, yeah, he'd probably be back. But you as a coach, you can't bank on that. You have to have a contingency in place. What was that whole saga like in figuring out, all right, Trinidad, yes, all right, boom, he's clear, we're good to go?
I think it was taking a step at a time, so the first piece for us was like, all right, well, we have to retain him, right? Because if it does get cleared, right, I know I want him on my football team, right? So the number one is like, all right, he's got to make a decision based on he is going to be eligible, right? And like, all right, we got to do a good job from a retention component. Like, all right, we're going to keep the system the same. What are the pieces we're going to put around them, right? From a development component, is his quarterback coach going to change? I mean, there was a lot of questions there that they needed answers and his camp needed answers. So the number one reason first was like, all right, how are we going to continue to develop you and put the pieces around you to be able to have even a better year next year, right? And so once we went that piece of, it's like, all right, I feel good. I'm definitely staying. This is where I want to continue to create my legacy, which he did an unbelievable job of in one season, right? And continue to add to that for himself. Then the next one was like, all right, now all we can focus on is controlling what we can control, right? All that stuff is out of it, right? So right now we got two things. You got to help us recruit our roster in case you are eligible, right? Good players want to play with good players. And then number two, if you're not eligible, you still got to be preparing for the draft, right? If your eligibility is exhausted from meeting prep, right, and quarterback coach and all those type of things. So that's kind of how we went about it. And, I think he was a pro. Obviously, that's hard to do. It's easy to say control what you can control. But, I think you go and then, you get the court ruling. Well, then it comes back with the appeal. And then I was, oh, here we go again, right? Just you felt bad for the kid because of the timing of everything. He already didn't do the combine, right? He wasn't doing pro day. It's like, all right, man, if this thing heads south, like, we got to make sure that, he's ready to start, going and doing interviews with NFL teams and all that. But he was awesome about it. He's got a great mom and dad. He's got a good agent and all that. And Joe did a great job with him throughout the process. But we took it one piece at a time, retention first, recruitment second for our roster, right? The development component third. And then just trying to really focus on controlling what we can control, getting a really good routine, still work out, be around the team, right? You're the starting quarterback until you're not. And that's how, I presented it to him. Right now, once we got the court injunctions, like, hey, you're our leader, you're our quarterback, we're doing everything, you're running the meeting, you're taking the 1 reps, there ain't any of that. And then we'll still work you out on the side just in case.
It's easy to say, hey, we've been doing it a certain way offensively for a while. We're going to continue to do what we've done. It's going to be seamless. It's going to be no adjustments. Like, Trinidad, you're still here, still got a running back, some new faces on the offensive line, some new faces at wide receiver. But you know what? What's done is done. We've turned this thing over before. We've had success. In comes John David Baker. And he's had familiar. He's been with you. But every quarterback and every coach, frankly, kind of has their own little fingerprints. Even if they're doing and molding the same pot of clay, there's kind of their own little fingerprints. So what changes and adjustments do you anticipate JDB having on what y'all are doing on offense?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've done this for a long time. So every off season, even when you don't replace the coordinator, you're tweaking your package and hey, what can we do better? What do we not do well? How can we streamline it? So that was the thing to me when I interviewed JDB. I was like, I didn't want him to come in with the 2023 playbook and it be verbatim, right? Does that make sense? Like, because you know how it is when you go off and you get your own shot. I want you to be able to create your own identity and make it make sense and make it more user friendly and easier to learn, especially in these days. So I love that he had actually had changed some terminology, right, to me that made it easier to learn, right, through the interview. And this is why, and had answers of why he did it. So I love guys that had been in the system and been a lead in the system, but then went somewhere else and did it their own way. And then now when you come back, all right, the combination of this and what's the best way to do it. So the benefit being that Joe didn't change,
Yeah.
right? So from a technical component of playing the position and some of those, obviously some of the reads and the progressions and all those type of things are naturally gonna based on play type and all those. So, but I love JDB's energy and I knew he was a great dude and a really good recruiter when I was here with him in 23 and did a great job at East Carolina. But he does. I mean, obviously it's not identical. Don't want it to be, right? And he's got to be his own dude. But I think there's familiarity in Trinidad of having Joe run the quarterback room, right, like he has. And then the play calling and the helmet to helmet communication will obviously be different. And that's from the spring. And you got to use fall camp for and all that. And JDB ain't Charlie and doesn't need to be, So they'll have to figure that out. But I think he's the right guy for the job.
That's 15 minutes of Pete Golding right here on Jocks. We've got 15 more minutes. Greg was able to spend a little bit more time with the Ole Miss head coach, and we will continue with that and get our Super Sofa game of the weekend thanks to TD's Fine Furniture. We've got about a little less than 30 minutes left of the show. Continue to stick right here on Jocks with Mac and Cube. Welcome back into McElroy and Cubelic in the Morning. I'm John Saber here with you for another 20 or so minutes. But without further ado, let's get back to the conversation that Greg McElroy had with Ole Miss head coach Pete Golding.
With you still calling plays on defense, that's your bread and butter, that's your baby. I thought you came up throughout the playoffs with kind of a unique way of handling it, where maybe Joe's in charge of some game management stuff while you're working on defense. Then you kind of evolved game over game. So you got a 3-game sample size of like, hey, this worked for me, this didn't work for me. So as you reassess kind of your involvement while calling defensive plays and running and managing the game itself as a head coach, what have you kind of learned about balancing those two responsibilities?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first game was I kind of looked at it independent of its own. The big thing I was like, I wanted to go in for our players. I didn't want them to feel anything different, right, going into this first game.
Right.
Or as the preparation of it, who was calling it, who was running the meetings, all those type of things. So then the management component of it, obviously, I was like, all right, well, I'll manage it when the defense is up. So then now Trinidad, you're still there with the iPad with Trinidad like you normally are, right? And then now when the defense obviously is on the bench, I need to make sure I have the ability to go over there because normally I've been in the box. And so I could talk to Jordan directly. I could talk to Kitch directly. I could talk to everybody, like, hey, play 3, play 10, play 12. And well, now you're not in the box, you can't do that. So then I was like, all right, this game, hey, when defense is up, I got it. When offense is up, you manage the situations. If it's a 2-minute situation or end of game, I'll be up with you, right? And then as it progressed, like I felt uncomfortable in some of those things, right? Everybody doesn't see everything the same. So obviously you'd meet before and all right, here's the plan, here's the situations, this is how we see it, boom. And then as we went, I got better at just using the iPad and not having to go to the bench. And so that's when it settled. I could still get my film done between the series, right? Still be able to manage the game, obviously with him having the emphasis of the ability to call timeouts, which I think is important, when the offense had the ball. So a lot more prep work before. I think when you were just thrown to the fire, it's like, all right, man, let's get a good defensive plan. Y'all get a good offensive plan. All right, here's the management. Let's figure it out on Thursday and get it done. But understanding the situations and all those things and having plans for those, obviously throughout the week to be loaded on Saturday. But, I added some guys from a defensive staff standpoint so that I wouldn't have to go to the bench and then that we got better in the box. And I think that was an important piece for me to be able to take some of that stuff off of me in game and all those things to where I could focus on just calling defense. And then when the defense is on the bench, they got it. Right. And then now I can still manage the game, from an offense perspective. So that's kind of the direction we're going. And that's kind of why we're doing 2 mock game weeks towards the end of spring, just to kind of make sure we iron that out and go through the kinks and see if we could do it better.
Yeah, I love it. I know it's amazing to me. Like, Pete, I think you're one of the smartest defensive minds I've been around. Like, I feel like I know ball pretty well. And I'll sit in a meeting with you and you'll get up there on the board and you'll start drawing stuff. And it's like, he lost me. Like, hang on. Like, well, this guy's got inside out to this, got to adjust to this. So I wanted you to just kind of take us into a Pete Golding led defensive meeting room, an install meeting, for example. Let's just say it's Thursday. It's third down. All right. Let's say it's third down and medium. Okay. And you're playing against, I don't know, Miami, whatever, most recent game. And they motion from 2x2 with 2 wide receivers, the back's on the right, and offset gun. They motion from 2x2, and they all of a sudden motion a guy across with Malachi Toney, and they build a bunch with Malachi Toney. So there's 1 receiver to the left, 3 receivers to the right. From a defensive perspective, passing strength's on your left, and the running back now is strong to the passing strength. There's 4 strong, if you will. So walk us through that adjustment from Pete Golding's perspective as you're installing it to your defense, so our listeners understand just how complex your adjustments are.
Well, I mean, obviously we feel like they're not complex, but
it's just to the average person, it's like this guy's he's solving the world's problems.
Yeah, like to me, obviously, conceptually, you naturally want to be able to have the chalk last if you can. Right. And all you offensive guys obviously aren't going to show us, here you go, right? Like Civil War. So it's going to be here. I'm going to start in 2x2. I'm going to create 3x1, do all this, and get 4 strong load to run mesh or to run this. So I think conceptually teaching and understanding, right, situational football, like, all right, here are their 5 plays that they love in this situation. Understand how they've done it up to this point. They are not going to do that versus us, because they know they're going to have a plan. So it's going to be a different shift, a different motion, a different bump to create the same thing. They're getting the spacing, or they're getting a sprint out flood, or what it is. So I think it's really important going into it that they understand from an offensive standpoint of what's their bread and butter in this situation trying to get to. And then it's much easier from a defensive standpoint. All right, we know they're getting to this and they're going to run pick flat because it's 3rd and 4 to give them a two-way go, right? And they're going to motion Tony to create it. Well, then we need to roll and be able to play trap, right? So we don't get picked and do it. So if we're in 2-by-2, right, they run fade out to the boundary. So we want to play bracket to the boundary, but they run double slant to the field. So we want to play cougar, right? So that's inside out pattern match, safety up over the top. But if they go 3-by-1, right, then we got to roll to cloud, right? We're going to make the backside, and now we're going to poach 3 because we got a backer on 3 for the 3 vertical. So now when they motion Tony, we're going to go trap them. So we got him in and out and high load, right? We're leaving the backside legs undressed. It's 4 strong. It's going to be sprint. He's made, right? Now roll to poach and kick the coverage, right? So now we can trap the flat.
Simple, right?
So, but normally those are families for us, right? So like this family, right? The 2-by-2 is this coverage, 3-by-1 is this coverage, right? So like it's families and all that. But for Malachi, obviously, I thought going into that game, if he doesn't score, we win. And if we'd have done that, we would have. The one screen, right, that, versus him on those downs, we were trying to drop the 5 technique to him to that side to vice the ball because we were worried about tackling his ass in space. And we're in a low hole, high hole concept, and he went 40 for the touchdown. So, but yeah, I think you build buffets through the spring. I think it's really important. I think every year is independent of its own based on who do we have and what do they do well, and then what are you going against. So I think by getting good players, right, I think like we've done in this portal, I do think it allows you to do some different things, right, and not always have to have the chalk last. That it's always better. Like when I first got to Bama, I'm like, dude, we're going to play over, under, bear, play cover 1, low hole, hot hole. We're good. Dude, we got better players. And boy, was I wrong, right? Base under road, double 7 adjusted slot. So, but no, I love that. I love that about Coach Saban and having answers for guys. And this becomes an issue. This is your compliment. So I've always created the package, right, since I've been it that way. And whether you go to it and have to or not, that's your own opinion. But, I do think the players appreciate that they have, answers. And if they're going to this and that's a problem, here it is and here's why. And so, I'm for overwhelming them throughout the week and throwing more at them than they need. So then that way, when you in-flight adjust in a game and they're doing something new and you got to draw something new, they don't panic. And I was opposite of that before Coach Saban, and he really changed my mindset and my thought process on that, which I greatly appreciate.
Well, it's amazing to hear all the different nuance, though. Even as a guy that knows ball and has attacked your defense many times, you have an answer for everything. It's very, very impressive. You referenced the portal class. I do want to get to that because I think what you did in short order is remarkable. To know, too, that you're almost recruiting your own team as hard as anyone else in the country. Everyone has to recruit their own guys. No one had to recruit them harder than you, while still being able to put together the portal class that you put together. So how is that group shaping? I know we won't know until October or September, but so far through the first 2 practices of spring, how do you feel like that portal class is shaping out?
I think the big emphasis for me was getting longer on the edges, right? Getting bigger inside, and then size, speed in the back end. I feel like it's always, I've struggled to where, all right, if you don't have the ability to play man-to-man when you have to, and you start having to call games based on who's in the game, like it's going to be tough to win the last one, to be honest with you. So we got longer on the edges by bringing in Purchase from Oregon, who's a very similar system, right, and is used to winning and all those things. He's going to be a really good player. The Maldonado kid from Nevada, an elite length, can corner top of the rush. Was really important, obviously, with P. Will going to LSU to be able to get an elite long pass rusher. Obviously, you got Perkins coming back, that you got an experienced guy at the position. And then the size, speed in the back end. I mean, the back end that we brought in has got over 4,000, snaps,
Wow.
of SEC experience, and I think that's the big thing because at this point, like most of it's same as. Like, all right, here's your Florida defense. Here's Ole Miss defense. All right, here's 70% same as. Y'all called it orange. We call it blue. It's the same, right? So, like, we don't have to teach that, right, because they already know that. And we'll focus on the technique later. So that's the benefit of, bringing in a Jonell from Georgia. Very similar systems, been coached really well, right? Has an understanding of it, right? Florida, that was Ron's, right? Very similar system, right? And Sharif, right? And then obviously Jay, right? Coming from Auburn, right? Similar things, man, playing trap, right? Playing bail. And so you try to get complementary pieces, right? That kind of fit what you do, that got SEC experience. So I really like the back end. I think obviously we're going to continue to try to develop them as we get through it, just like you said. But I do think you have something you can hang your hat on, right? When it's on the, on the line that you can call and you're matched up and you're not concerned about the matchup. And then to me, this defense has always been elite. Like when you got an eraser at backer, because of what you do to the front and cut things up and try to stunt and things like that. And that's the one thing I felt like we really added, with Keaton Thomas from Baylor, who's led the Big 12 in tackles and all that, but just a football junkie, man. Just loves ball. He's tough. He's competitive. He's smart. Great closer speed. And then you put Luke beside him, right? That obviously had a freshman All-American year. Really good finisher. That's the one thing. The missed tackle rate is something at the second level we really got to improve on, right? That obviously creates some of those explosive plays. So those two guys' ability to finish on the ball carrier and make things right and play numbers to numbers, something I'm really excited about. And then, Tajay Butler in that as well, the kid from Georgia Tech, really smart kid out of Edicard, New Orleans. So, I felt like we brought three experienced backers that have played the spot, right, that put finishing ability, on tape in college. I thought it was really important. And then it was replacing, obviously, the production at receiver, right? Yeah, we got our quarterback back that we love, but he's got to have somebody to throw to, right? I mean, I think the retention at Deuce was our top priority, right? I think, he's said to have a breakout year, but we need pieces around him so they can't just focus and take him away. And then, Lacey sustaining the year, not having to put too much on him, right? We want to make sure we created some good depth in the running back position. And that was the one thing that Bama to me, I mean, how the Bama days, I mean, they're 5 deep. It's like, it don't matter who they roll out. They're like, holy, right? Like, here's Najee, and there's Damian, and then here comes Josh Jacobs, and like, holy, whatever. And so, like, I always love that because of their skill set, and they complement each other, and not a big ego room, and we can use them. So I thought it was really important. If 5 goes out of the game, then obviously everybody in the country doesn't know we're throwing the ball. And so I wanted to be able to add some pieces at back that we could still establish the run with Kiwan not in the game. And I think we're able to do that. And then, I think every year in this league, obviously, your offensive line is something that's got to come together, and you're going to have to develop and that camaraderie and all that. So added some talented pieces to it, and then took some older guys that were experienced, maybe not as talented, but really new and were really tough. So that combination, hopefully, we can get that talent coached up and have the most talented guy on the field that knows what to do. But if not, we had to complement it with somebody that we know could play winning football that you could count on. And I think that's the big piece now, to where when you don't have a spring portal window, right, and you don't have the ability to add to your program, you got to make sure that the pieces complement each other. And like, to me, you can't go and roll the dice on the same guy. Hey, we're just going to get size, speed, don't know about FBI. Like, no. One of these better be smarter, and the other one better be really fast, right? Does it make sense? Or at least he's not going to screw it up, right? If we want to do some collect stuff. If not, we can go cat coverage and let that guy cover that guy. So yeah, I think, complementary recruiting I thought was really important, and I thought we did a good job. And then, I think, with the portal now, when your best players come back, I think that talks about the culture that's already created. And I think that helps from a recruiting standpoint, and good players want to play with good players. And, they ask them, well, why didn't you go? And this is why, and all those type of things. So I think they did a good job in helping recruit the class as well.
Well, you're unapologetically you too, man. Like, I'm not saying that because we're buddies or we've known each other a long time. Like, you are you. Like, a lot of guys that get this job, I mean, there'd be some changes in their personality. I mean, understandably, like, it's just a lot more responsibility. You're operating under a much bigger microscope now, and here you are. You're still the same old Pete that I've known forever. So, how do you maintain just who you are, given what you have now, kind of the keys that you have now at your disposal in the kingdom?
Yeah. I mean, I think, guys that you've been around, I mean, I just felt like everybody I've worked for, I never felt like they, I don't know, they tried to act like somebody they weren't or anything like that. And then that's what I loved, about Coach Saban. Like, Coach Saban's Coach Saban, and like, I'm not Coach Saban. Like, I can't do it exactly that way, right? Would love to, but I'm not. And my whole thing, to be honest with you, like, my whole plan was like, all right, coach, as long as I still love coaching. And then when I get tired of coaching and running a room and designing defenses, go on the road recruiting, then take a head job, and then win your first year, get your second year, get your second contract, get fired, and go to the beach. Like, that's been my goal, like, since I was 22 in the game, right? Like, I wanted that when I was tired of coaching, right? Well, my little girl's only 8, right? So I'm 14, 11, 8. So I got a while. So now I got to flip the script and make sure I do this the right way and all that. But no, I mean, I just think you work hard and you try to, put good programs in place and hire good people to run those. I'm smart enough to know I'm not good at everything. And I think it's really important to get really good people around you and get out of their way. I mean, I was like Paul in the weight room, man. Like, he's unbelievable. Like, quit going over there. We should do this. Like, dude, just shut the hell up and let him do it. Like, that's why you hired him to do it, right? And so there's been several of those. And I don't know, me, I've never changed up to this point, and it's worked out. So at this point, like, Obviously the decision making, there's some decisions I wish I could have over again, obviously like all of us, but making sure I'm making good decisions, right? Realizing I affect a lot more people now than I did before, right? And all that. And then making sure I'm delegating, the right things and putting my focus where they need to be and all those. But, it's really, you know, it's kind of messed me up because I don't think about nothing of going to the grocery store. I don't think of nothing about going to my kid's game. I don't think about it, right? Like, I don't think about walking in Smoothie King and ordering a PB Swizzle. Like that doesn't cross my mind. Like, holy, like I shouldn't do this. And then like some of the pitcher deal, man, it's like, God dang, But I'm getting better at that piece. But no, it is what it is, man. I'm still going to enjoy life, right? Be a dad, all those things, and try to, set a good example for these dudes and get good plans for them, and hopefully it'll work out.
Well, we're hoping the best for you, man. Always appreciate your time. Always appreciate your candor, and look forward to seeing you in the fall, brother.
I'll see you in Birmingham, dog. You better bring your A game.
Let's go.
All right, dog.
See you, buddy.
That was Greg McElroy and Pete Golding right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. We'll wrap up the show next, right here on Jocks. Welcome back in. Final few moments of McElroy and Cubelic in the morning here on Jocks. I'm John Saber here with you for another 90 seconds or so, and then Landrum, Pat, Conrad, Molly, all of the fine folks on three-man front will get you going for the rest of the day. But before we wrap up here on Mac and Cube, we've got to get our TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa game of the weekend. Get your Super Sofa and more at TD's Fine Furniture during their tax season sale. Over 100,000 square feet of furniture for the entire home with options for every room to fit your style and budget. That's TD's Fine Furniture in Summerton. I would be remiss if Cole was here. You know who he would choose. It would be your Birmingham Stallions. That game tonight, 7 o'clock on Fox. That's a game that he would choose. Damian would probably choose his Nashville Cats or something. Honestly, Damian's probably crying because Jeremiah Love did not go to the Tennessee Titans. Greg would and I, we'll be the smart ones here, and we will continue watching and enjoying the NFL Draft. Coverage for that, I believe, is underway 6 o'clock tonight, rounds 2 and 3. You can catch on ESPN or the NFL Network. And then it will conclude on Saturday at 11 o'clock, rounds 4 through 7. And that's our TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa games of the weekend. Well, that wraps up McElroy and Cubelic for the week. Thank you so very much for tuning in today. Don't forget, Paul Feinbaum will be on these airwaves in a little over 4 hours at 2 o'clock. Three-Man Front will be coming up next. Speaking of Paul Feinbaum, he'll be back with us on Monday, McElroy and Cubelic, to not only recap his thoughts on what he saw from the draft. Let's just hope that the SEC is able to overtake the Big Ten in draft picks. We'll also get his thoughts on college football playoff expansion. For everyone here at Mac and Cube, I'm John Saber. Thanks for listening.